If you are 60 or older, or you love someone who is, there may be Social Security money connected to your record that will not simply show up in your bank account unless you ask the right question. And I want to be very clear right from the start. This is not because you did anything wrong. It is not because you were careless. It is because Social Security is a large system, and the system does not always explain every option sitting inside your own lifetime of work, marriage, loss, retirement, or corrected earnings. A lot of people look at the monthly amount they receive and assume, well, that must be all there is. But sometimes that smaller check is not the end of the story. Sometimes there is a spousal benefit that was never compared. Sometimes there is a survivor benefit after a husband or wife passed away. Sometimes there are delayed retirement credits that were not understood. Sometimes a person kept working after retirement and never checked whether a recalculation was done correctly. And sometimes the most expensive mistake is hidden in plain sight: an earnings record that is missing wages from years ago. Stay with me until the end, because the fifth one is the one almost nobody checks, even though it is the record that controls the income many seniors live on for the rest of their lives. I looked through the current Social Security Administration guidance on spousal benefits, survivor benefits, delayed retirement credits, work after retirement, and correcting an earnings record, and I am going to translate it into plain English. Not legal language, not government language. Just the practical questions you need to ask so you do not leave money behind. And while we are here, make sure you are subscribed, because Social Security rules, Medicare rules, benefit letters, deadlines, scams, and retirement changes can quietly affect your income. The people who hear about these things early are usually the people who catch the mistake before it becomes permanent. The first thing to know is that your own retirement check is not always the only Social Security check that matters. Many seniors spent years assuming Social Security is only based on their own work record. They think, I worked, I paid in, I claimed, and now this is my amount. But if you are married, divorced after a long marriage, or widowed, there may be another record that should be compared to yours. This is where spousal benefits come in. Social Security says a spouse's benefit can be as much as 1/2 of the worker's full retirement amount, depending on the age and situation of the spouse. That does not mean everyone gets half. It does not mean you get your own full benefit plus half of your spouse's. But it does mean that, in some households, one spouse may be due a higher combined amount than they are receiving now. Here is the ordinary situation. A husband worked most of his life. A wife worked too, but maybe she spent years raising children, caring for a parent, working part-time, or earning less. She files for Social Security on her own record because that is the record she knows. Her check starts, the deposits arrive, and nobody sits her down and says, "Let us compare this against your spouse's record." She may think the smaller amount is just how the system treats her. But the hidden issue is that Social Security benefits can be tied to family status, not just your own wages. Spouses, and in some cases divorced spouses, may have rights that are easy to miss because people do not ask the question in the right words. That one comparison can matter for the rest of your life. Even a difference of $50 a month becomes $600 a year. A difference of $150 a month becomes $1,800 a year. Over 10 years, that is $18,000. That is grocery money. That is prescription money. That is the cushion that keeps a small emergency from turning into a crisis. And the painful part is that many people miss it, not because they are unqualified, but because nobody tells them to ask for a spousal comparison. The agency may process the claim in front of it, but you should not assume every possible household benefit has been explained to you in a way you understood.
Delayed claiming works.
So here is the practical step. If you are married, or if you were divorced after a long marriage, call Social Security, or use your secure Social Security account and ask this exact idea in plain language. Please compare my retirement benefit with any spouse or divorced spouse benefit I may qualify for, and tell me whether I am receiving the highest amount available under the rules. Do not just ask, "Am I getting Social Security?" You already know that. Ask for the comparison. And if you are helping a parent, write the question down before the call. That one sentence can uncover something that was never explained clearly. But the next one is even easier to miss because it often happens during grief, when nobody is thinking clearly. The second issue is survivor benefits. When a husband, wife, or ex-spouse passes away, many people assume Social Security automatically switches the surviving person to the best possible benefit. Sometimes people think, the government knows he died, so they will fix everything. But that is not a safe assumption. Survivor benefits have their own rules, their own application process, and their own timing. Social Security says survivor benefits may be paid to eligible family members of someone who worked and paid Social Security taxes, including a spouse, divorced spouse, child, or dependent parent. That is a very important sentence because it means this is not charity. It is connected to work that was already done and taxes that were already paid. Picture a widow who is already receiving her own retirement benefit. Her husband dies. She is overwhelmed with funeral arrangements, bank accounts, insurance papers, and family calls. A small one-time payment may be mentioned, or a letter may arrive that is hard to understand. She keeps receiving her own check and assumes that is all she can get. But in some cases, a survivor benefit based on the deceased spouse's record may be higher than her own benefit. She may not receive both full checks at the same time, but she may be able to receive the higher appropriate amount. That difference can be life-changing. If her own check is modest and her spouse had a larger work record, the survivor comparison may determine whether she can stay in the same home, cover utilities, or afford the help she needs. This is where careful people still get caught. They do report the death. They do handle the paperwork. They do not ignore the government. But they never ask the key question: am I eligible for a widow, widower, or surviving divorced spouse benefit? And would it be higher than what I receive now? That is the part nobody explains clearly at the kitchen table. The death of a spouse can change which Social Security record matters most. And if the surviving spouse was divorced, the mistake can be even worse, because many divorced seniors assume the connection ended completely. Under Social Security rules, some divorced spouses may still qualify for benefits connected to a former spouse's record if the marriage and other requirements meet the rules. The practical step is simple, but it takes courage, because it may mean reopening a painful subject. If your spouse or former spouse has passed away, contact Social Security directly and ask for a survivor benefit review. Use clear words. I want to know whether I qualify for survivor benefits on my deceased spouse's record or deceased former spouse's record, and whether that amount is higher than my current benefit. If you are helping your mother, father, aunt, uncle, or neighbor, do not assume the funeral home, bank, or family attorney handled this. They may have handled important things, but that does not mean the monthly Social Security comparison was completed in the best way. And the next point matters because some people never lost a spouse and never had a spousal claim, but they still may have money tied up in a decision they made years ago. The third thing to understand is delayed retirement credits. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of Social Security because people hear different advice from friends, coworkers, and relatives. One person says, take it as soon as you can. Another says, wait as long as possible. But the real question is not what your neighbor did. The real question is whether your own claiming age was handled correctly and whether you understood what happened when you waited after full retirement age. Social Security says delayed retirement credits increase your retirement benefit if you delay starting after full retirement age, and the increase applies only up to age 70. After age 70, there is generally no reason to delay claiming retirement benefits for more delayed credits. Here's the ordinary situation. A person reaches full retirement age and keeps working. Maybe they are healthy. Maybe they need the income. Maybe they just are not ready to stop. They wait to claim Social Security because they were told waiting could increase the check. That may be true, but later, when they finally claim, they may not understand how the delayed credits appear, when they are applied, or whether the amount they received reflects the waiting period. Another person does the opposite. They are already past age 70 and still have not claimed because they thought waiting forever would keep increasing the benefit. That is a costly misunderstanding. The rule is simple, but the consequence can be permanent. Delayed retirement credits are valuable after full retirement age, but they do not keep growing forever. This matters because your claiming age can shape your monthly income for the rest of your life. A higher monthly benefit can help protect you against rising prices, higher premiums, and the loss of other income. But a missed filing after age 70 may mean someone went months or longer without collecting a benefit they could have started. And if a person delayed properly but never checked the calculation, they may never feel confident that the increase was applied as expected. The practical step is to review your claiming history. If you claimed before full retirement age, ask whether your benefit was reduced and whether any later adjustment applies if benefits were withheld because of work. If you claimed after full retirement age, ask whether all delayed retirement credits were included. And if you are near age 70 or already past it, do not rely on an old rule someone told you. Ask Social Security directly what month your benefit should start and whether any retroactive options are available in your situation. This is not about squeezing the system. It is about receiving the amount connected to the decisions you already made. And now comes the fourth point, which catches people who did the responsible thing and kept working. The fourth issue is work after retirement. Many seniors start benefits and then keep working. Some do it because they enjoy it. Some do it because prices went up. Some do it because a part-time job gives structure to the week. But here is the thing many people never find out. Working after you start Social Security can sometimes increase your future benefit if the new earnings are among your highest years. Social Security says it reviews the records of beneficiaries who have wages reported, and if a recent year of earnings is one of the highest years used in the calculation, the agency recalculates the benefit and pays any increase due, retroactive to January after the year of earnings. That sounds automatic, and in many cases the review is supposed to happen. But automatic does not mean you should stop paying attention. A wage report can be late. A self-employment record can be wrong. A name mismatch, employer mistake, or missing earnings year can reduce the chance that the recalculation helps you when it should. And many seniors never notice because the increase may be small at first. If a check rises by a few dollars, they may not connect it to work. If it does not rise at all, they may assume their work no longer matters. But Social Security retirement benefits are based on a record of earnings, and if a recent year replaces a low or zero year in the calculation, the monthly amount may move. Think about someone who started Social Security at 62 and then went back to work at 65. Maybe earlier in life they had years with low earnings because they were caring for children, recovering from illness, or working in a job not covered in the same way. Later work may help replace one of those lower years. The monthly increase may not sound dramatic, but a permanent increase is different from a one-time bonus. $10 a month is $120 a year. $30 a month is $360 a year. Over a long retirement, even modest changes matter because they repeat every month. There is another layer too. If you worked before full retirement age and some benefits were withheld because your earnings were above the allowed level, Social Security guidance says benefits can be recalculated at full retirement age to give credit for months when benefits were reduced or withheld. That does not mean everyone who works gets a larger check right away. It means work and withholding can affect the calculation in ways many people never understand. This is why you should not simply say, "I worked, so they must have handled it." The safer step is to check. Here is what to do. If you received Social Security and worked in any year after you started benefits, ask Social Security whether your recent earnings were reviewed and whether any recalculation was due. If you had benefits withheld because you worked before full retirement age, ask whether your benefit was adjusted at full retirement age to account for those withheld months. Keep your wage records, tax records, and any notices you received. If you are self-employed, be especially careful because your reported earnings must be tied correctly to your Social Security record. This is where one missing year can quietly affect every check that follows. And that brings us to the fifth point, the one I wish every senior would check this week. The fifth and most overlooked issue is your Social Security earnings record. Most people spend more time checking a grocery receipt than checking the record that controls their retirement income. But Social Security calculates retirement benefits by looking at your earnings history. If a year is missing, too low, or posted to the wrong record, your future benefit may be lower than it should be. Social Security tells workers to review their earnings record and says the record matters because the agency uses earnings to calculate monthly retirement and disability benefits. The agency also explains that corrections may require evidence, such as wage forms, pay stubs, or other proof. Here is the ordinary situation. You worked a job decades ago. You changed names after marriage or divorce. You moved. An employer went out of business. A payroll office made a mistake. You were self-employed and a tax year was reported differently than expected. You assume that because taxes came out of your paycheck, the earnings must be sitting correctly inside Social Security. But that is not always true. Payroll systems are human systems. Names can be misspelled. Social Security numbers can be entered incorrectly. Old employers may not be easy to contact, and if the error is from long ago, finding proof can become harder every year. This is not imaginary money. Your earnings record is the foundation under the benefit. If the foundation is wrong, the monthly amount built on top of it may be wrong too. One missing high-earning year may not look dramatic on paper, but if it changes the calculation, it can reduce a benefit for life. A lower monthly check becomes a lifetime loss. And this is especially unfair because the person may have worked the hours, paid the taxes, and followed the rules, but the records still may not show it. There is also a timing issue. Social Security has rules about correcting earnings records, and the general correction window is limited, though there are exceptions for certain situations. That is why waiting is risky. The deadline does not feel like a deadline until the proof is gone, the employer is closed, and the old paperwork has been thrown away. Do not assume you can fix everything easily 20 years later. Sometimes you can correct a record with the right documentation. Sometimes it becomes much harder. The safest time to check is before you urgently need the money. The practical step is to create or sign in to your secure Social Security account and review your earnings year by year. Do not just look at the estimated benefit on the front page. Look at the earnings record itself. Compare it with old wage forms, tax returns, pay stubs, or self-employment records if you still have them. If a year is missing or looks too low, contact Social Security and ask how to request a correction. Use plain words. My earnings record appears wrong for this year, and I want to know what proof you need to correct it. If you cannot use the website, call Social Security or contact your local office. If you are helping an older parent, sit with them and look year by year. This is not busy work. This is checking the record that may determine the check they live on. Now there is one more practical warning that ties all 5 of these together. Do not ask vague questions and accept vague answers. If you call and say, "Am I getting everything?" you may get a general response, but if you ask specific questions, you are much more likely to uncover the right review. Ask for a spousal comparison. Ask for a survivor benefit review. Ask whether delayed retirement credits were applied. Ask whether work after retirement caused a recalculation. Ask whether your earnings record is complete and what proof is needed if it is not. Those are 5 different doors. The mistake is standing in the hallway and assuming all the doors were opened for you. And please, do not rely only on what happened to a friend. Your neighbor may have claimed at a different age. Your cousin may have been married for a different length of time. Your brother may have a different work record. Your former coworker may have been affected by the earnings test before full retirement age. Social Security is personal. The right answer depends on your age, your work record, your marital history, your claiming date, and sometimes your spouse's or former spouse's record. That is why the goal is not to guess. The goal is to ask for the correct comparison. So here is the full picture. Social Security may be holding money, increases, or corrections that are connected to your life, but they may not come looking for you in a way you recognize. A spouse may be missing a comparison. A widow or widower may be sitting on the wrong benefit after a loss. A person who delayed retirement may need to confirm the delayed credits were handled correctly. A senior who kept working may be due a recalculation if newer earnings replaced lower years. And almost everyone should check the earnings record that controls the whole calculation. None of this means every person will get more money, but it does mean every person should know what to ask before assuming the check is final. You worked too long, paid in too many years, and lived through too many changes to leave money behind simply because the system is hard to understand. Write down the 5 questions, keep your records, call Social Security directly, or use your secure account.
And share this with a spouse, a parent, a neighbor, a church friend, or anyone living on a fixed income. Because the person who needs this most may be the person who quietly assumed there was nothing left to check. Stay subscribed, because when rules, benefits, warnings, and deadlines affect seniors, you deserve to hear about them in plain English before money is lost.